Hi, warriors. This is Jaylyn, my legal warrior. And today's segment is going to be about navigating child custody issues during the quarantine. I know that there are guides out there on the internet about how do we deal with these child custody issues while we're all in quarantine. I have a court order. The other parent doesn't want to modify the court order, but I think it would be best to modify it, just tweak it a little bit, even if it's me having to do X, Y, and Z. Now, we are aware that the Association of Family and Conciliation Courts came out with a 7-step guide to assist family law clients with child custody and visitation issues during the quarantine. And those 7-step guides is a great start to the issues that we're facing today. That actually was drafted on March 27, 2020. And given that we are now in April, a lot closer to April 27, 2020, it's time to update that list, and at least for our San Diego population, to have a more comprehensive guide so that you and the other parent can really learn how to communicate during the quarantine as to what is your top priority. So the top priority in child custody issues is obviously the child. So you each have to trust the other, and this is part of the exercise, is really having to trust the other parent that they are doing what is best for your children at all times. If you have a court order and you have joint legal custody, for example, then the court is already entrusting the other parent, regardless of whether you agree or disagree with it. That's your court order and you must follow it. You can be punished by the courts at a later time if you do try and modify that child custody and visitation order without the agreement of the other party. So if you're withholding visitation or you're making decisions without the other parent's knowledge and or consent, if the court order that you currently have states that you have to obtain the consent of the other parent before you take legal custody decisions, then that's what you need to do. So don't use this pandemic as a means to not follow court orders. If you don't have child custody and visitation orders, and unfortunately right now you can't establish a new case unless it's through a restraining order or a paternity action that's already in existence and there's some sort of emergency, then the court is not going to now establish a brand new child custody visitation order or a brand new child custody and visitation case. So the cases have to already be in existence. And you can't file new cases right now while the Superior Court of California, County of San Diego, is shut down for non-emergency issues. So what can we do during this time, especially if you don't have a court order? Well, I've outlined a 10-step guide to navigate child custody and visitation issues during the coronavirus quarantine. And so it is very comprehensive. It is definitely something that all parents, at least in San Diego County, should address with the other parent. We are all on lockdown. We're all supposed to be staying home, but just because the orders say stay at home, it doesn't mean that the other parent can't see their kids. And of course, there's going to be some exceptions to that. So if you're on supervised visitations, for example, you might have to reduce the number of supervised visitations by agreement by the other parent. Again, it has to be in the best interest of the children. And if the supervisor thinks that it's also not appropriate to do like 10 visitations during the week, then that's the advice that you both should adhere to. So this really requires during this time for you to enhance those communication skills and those co-parenting skills, because we are living in unprecedented times and we don't really have any solutions other than if you have a court order, you better follow it. And if you don't have a court order, then you're really at the mercy of the primary parent. And being able to work together during the quarantine is the only thing that you can do, again, at the mercy of the other parent, which is unfortunate, but it's the reality. So you can use this time to enhance your parenting skills. I mean, that is one of the tips that we are offering, is to do a joint online parenting class with your kids involved as well. I mean, really, you're gonna have to make this a joint effort if you both want to have a healthy child custody and visitation arrangement. We're not oblivious to the fact that parents don't get along prior to the quarantine, and it's like, okay, well, now you want us to get along and try to communicate. Yeah, we're aware that that is not realistic. But if both parents are on the same page in really wanting what is in the best interest of the children, and it has to be reasonable. And so there are professionals that will help you out there to establish what is reasonable. You don't want to be in one of those circumstances where you think everything is somewhat okay with you and the other parent, and then you find them all of a sudden filing an emergency hearing, establishing whatever it is that they're establishing against you because you're sending innocent, or you thought was innocent, texts to the other parent about what you're doing with the children during quarantine, and you're an essential employee, for example, and then all of a sudden you have no time with your kids aside from virtual visitations. You don't want to be put in that position. That's why communication, especially if you are an essential employee as identified by the CDC, adopted by the San Diego County health professionals or health officials, you need to be in communication with the other parent, because this is not about you. Child custody and visitation was never about the parents. It's about the parents co-parenting, but it's about the children, and it's about their health, their safety, and education, and overall welfare while they're in each of your care. And it's very important that both parents are on the same page this time. This is serious. I mean, we're not all staying at home because we all want to be staying at home. This is a worldwide pandemic, and you need to do your part to make sure that you are doing what's in the best interest of your children. So you need to let go of the fact that they're a horrible parent. They're not doing exactly what you told them to. You both are not on the same page as to how to clean your children's hands or brush their teeth before they go to bed. You know, things like that. We need to just put that in the past and figure out how to move forward during the quarantine. You are going to sleep much better at night knowing that you and the other parent are on the same page. Now, of course, there's going to be unreasonable parents out there, and they don't want to reach no agreement. They just want to follow whatever's the court order, or since they are the primary parent, that is it. What they say goes, and there's not a court order in place, so what is it that you're going to do about it? And they're right. You can't do anything about it. What, are you going to call the police without a court order in place? Especially if the children are not in danger. It's just a disagreement. So we really got to work on your co-parenting skills. And the number one thing that I am advocating for all parents out there is put the past behind you, because this is a circumstance that neither you or the other parent has ever dealt with. And you need to figure out a way that works for your child without preventing the other parent from not seeing their kid, even if they are an essential employee. If you guys come to an agreement that because you're an essential employee, and I don't think it's wise that you come and do these exchanges and you might be exposed to coronavirus when you come back home and you're taking care of our child, and then, you know, I live with family members or elderly or whoever is in my household that might also be negatively impacted by coronavirus, and perhaps at that point in time, the essential employee should be making different arrangements, like perhaps only seeing their kids virtually, perhaps only doing the exchanges 1 week on, 1 week off, perhaps doing something else like negotiating a schedule so that after the coronavirus is said and done and we're out of this quarantine, to be given more time with your children because you didn't get that time during the quarantine, because you didn't think that was best to have the children go back and forth. And that's hard. That is very hard, to not see your kids during the quarantine because you're a doctor or you're out there stocking groceries, whatever it is that you're doing that classifies you as an essential employee, and you're kind of choosing between making an income, giving to society, and being able to put a roof over your head, food on the table, and not being able to see your kids for who knows how long. That is a very difficult decision. And you can still see them. Virtual contact is definitely something that we're all practicing, right? You're watching this right now on your computer screen. You can be seeing your kids during this time too. So, and if you had a healthy relationship with the other parent where you're putting the past behind you forward in a way that is in the best interest of the child, keeping the other parent also in the loop and making sure that everybody's on the same page, is going to be effortless moving forward. And if you're not in that dynamic, then this video is very important to you as well, because you're going to be able to learn a lot more about doing an online parenting course with the other parent, maybe hiring a mental health professional to assist you with communicating with the other parent, perhaps even talking to the pediatrician of the children or educators regarding, the stay-at-home orders and having them to do like their homework. You're gonna, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to communicate with somebody other than yourself. Because again, this is not about you. This is about the kids and what we're going to do to ensure their safety, to ensure that when they are being exchanged from one parent's house to the next, that the parents are not more likely to be exposed to coronavirus due to these exchanges, due to your actions. So this is a family effort, and you need to just put that anger, hostility, whatever negative emotions that you're facing with the other parent aside, and start a new chapter, a new page, be the bigger person in the situation. And especially if you don't have those court orders and you can't get new court orders, you're either going to not see your kids at all, or you're going to heed to the other person's request. And doing a parenting course would probably help open up that communication for the two of you to be able to see your children. So again, this is not about you, it's about the kids. And let's head on over to my blog, which is where you'll find the 10-step guide to navigating child custody and visitation issues during the coronavirus quarantine. You're gonna log on to megahedesq.com, and you are going to click on Warrior Portal up here. And the first thing that's gonna come up is the 10-step guide to navigating child custody issues during the quarantine. Course address that the Superior Court has been closed since March 17, 2020. So here's a list of questions, and the questions and concerns are endless. This is just some of the concerns that just kind of came to mind and that I've been researching about also online. And so what do we do? What do we do during a time where, like I said earlier in my example, what if the other parent is identified as an essential employee and has to work during COVID-19, but yet the other parent's staying at home? What's the reasonable thing to do during that time? So this is 10 steps, and I also added a bonus step. And so the first thing that I want us to do is to talk to the children's pediatrician. So if you don't agree with the pediatrician, then my first question to you is why do you even have this pediatrician if both parents are not in agreement with the recommendation of whatever it is the pediatrician recommends, and whether there's anything extra that you need to do for your child during this time. Second is communicate about emergency health care decisions. Tip number 3, communicate about a realistic timeshare. And so who does the children live with primarily? And if you don't have a court order, then you're starting at ground zero. I mean, essentially, you both have 50-50 as far as the policy of the state is concerned. And then following the school holiday schedule. So if the children are of school age, they get time off, right? And so sometimes that time off might be like Lincoln's Day or President's Day or MLK Day, and they don't have school on those days. And so what our suggestion is don't just do an exchange for a 24-hour period. Now, we're not advocating that we need to have no exchanges, because that's unrealistic. So this tip is really focused on school holidays, or at least a week at a time though, because it's less exchanges between the parents. Of course, it's always best for the children to have access to both parents, and I'm using the word access. So that could be virtual, that could be in person, that could also be supervised visitations. So you need to really figure out with the other parent, and realistically, how can we limit the exchanges between the parents? Number 5, negotiate a vacation schedule. Vacations can be staycations, which are vacations locally. You don't have to go spend the night anywhere. You could literally just have your staycation at the house. Number 6, reconsider the number of exchanges during the week. I mean, that is the whole premise of this video, honestly, because we believe that the stay-at-home order should be honored. It should be followed. It is an order. And you only go out unless it's an essential thing that you need to do or pick up. Exchanges between the parents, that is essential. Okay? We're not saying deviate from the court order unless the other parent is in agreement with it. Might be a drastic change for this child, or for all of your children. And so communicating with healthcare professionals about this, if your child has a therapist, and hopefully they're still seeing their therapist, and when I say seeing, doing maybe virtual contact with their therapist during this time, then you can discuss with them, what kind of impact will this have on our children? Number 7, increasing virtual contact with the children. So maybe this is a great time to use the virtual contact. Maybe you guys have only been doing telephone calls, and so everybody's using the Zoom and all these other different programs out there to communicate with one another, like FaceTime. Now, this is really only going to work if you both are keeping an open mind and you both are not distracting the child or children. There's so many different things that you could actually do online right now with your kids. There's these online games where you could play with them. You could even read to them online. You could even have, Uber Eats, deliver food to your kids while they're in the care of the other parent. And you guys can just have a little lunch date, or maybe even do like a baking together. I actually saw a lot of parents do that with their kids. Things that you can do with your children, even if they're not physically there with you, but you could establish some sort of program with your kids that are available in both households, and that just still keeps you connected. There's more to being a parent than having that physical contact. Like, really utilize this time. We're, again, living in unprecedented times, and you just have to be creative and keep an open mind, and there's more to parenting than just being physically with the kids. There's the education aspect of it. You really got to make sure that the kids are completing their homework assignments, that they are on top of things, because there's really no excuses. None. The only distractions are these virtual games. Maybe talking with their friends on the phone or something like that. Number 8, jointly discuss with your children how to be hygienic per the CDC. So if you haven't, I mean, by now, you should have already sat down with your kids together or discussed with the other parent, hey, this is what I need you to do. Every single time you play with your toys, I need you to make sure that you wash your hands before and after. Every single time that you wake up, I need you to make sure that you wash your hands before you eat and after you eat. If you both have a joint plan as to what to do, and you don't even know how to come up with this joint plan because the other parent is just giving you something so unreasonable, let's talk to their pediatrician. Let's talk to the children's therapist. Let's talk to your own therapist, all right? So we need to come together, put any, hostility or negative energy that you have towards the other parent and really make it about your kids and what's best for them during the quarantine. Number 9, jointly complete an online co-parenting course. So my legal warrior loves having her clients do parenting courses, regardless of whether you've been a parent for 10 years or you've been a parent for 10 days. Everybody needs to take a parenting course, because if this is your first separation from the other parent, how do you know how to co-parent with the other parent without actually taking a class and learning on what to do? Something that you and the other parent needs to be on the same page. Because if you're thinking, oh no, I know how to be a parent, I've been a parent for 10 years and I know exactly what I need to do, and I just need to give a list of things to the other parent so that they can follow it. And if they follow this, then we'll be on the same page. It doesn't work like that, okay? Every parent has a different parenting style. Even parents that live under the same roof don't even have the same parenting style. And so if you're in different households, then that even becomes increasingly difficult, because the child now has to adjust the parenting styles in each household. And a lot of these parenting courses right now are going to be focused on co-parenting through the quarantine. So that is an excellent way for you and the other parent. I mean, it would be great if you both can take the same parenting course and do it together, or even involve your child in this parenting program. There's a program called Kids Turn of San Diego that's online. It's 4 weeks. You and the other parent can take that together with your child. I mean, it doesn't have to be Kids Turn of San Diego. It could be anything. We're not affiliated with Kids Turn of San Diego or any parenting program out there. Number 10 is hire an individual therapist for you, because now we're thinking, all right, I need to really work on my communication skills with the other parent because they drive me nuts. They're abusive. They're narcissistic. They don't care about anybody but themselves. They're very selfish. They say it's about the kids, but it's really not. It's about the money. All of these different factors that come into place when we approach co-parenting is not going to go away, but there's a different way of thinking about those negative factors, or what you see to be negative factors, and perhaps just letting that past go and just moving forward and figuring out how to communicate with the other parent. Now, if the other parent is just highly unreasonable regardless, then there's only so much that you can do, right? Like, you can only do so much, that whatever it is that's within reach, that's all that you can do. We need to figure out a way to co-parent, and parenting classes haven't worked, and talking to the pediatrician, their educator, their teachers haven't worked, and I'm just at a standstill. And so, talking to your own therapist as to how to deal with this is very important. If you don't have a therapist, you need to get one, because especially if you're a primary parent or a parent that is not pleased with the way that things have turned out for you in the court system, or just co-parenting in general with the other parent, you need somebody to talk to and can give you coping skills in a different way of thinking about the circumstance that you're in right now. Because it's not about you, it's about your kids. And then we have a bonus tip. And we think that if you and the other parent really can't come to any sort of agreement, but you know that the schedule is not working for you. The other parent doesn't like the schedule that you guys haven't recently agreed to, or the custody orders that are in place, and you just want to stop the fighting. You want to be on the same page as the other parent. Then you both need to put your pennies together, or put something on a loan or a credit card, whatever it might be, and invest in a child custody mediator. All right. And you make sure that that mediation session is binding. And the reason why I'm saying it's binding, because if you go through mediation, you're spending, a few $100s or a few $1,000s. It's really going to be dependent on the two of you and how you handle mediation. But if you go to a mediator and you're hoping, the intention is like, yeah, they're going to see it my way. They're going to recommend the way that I want to do things. And if that's the case, and that's how you're going to mediation thinking that's your expectation, and that's not your expectation, and it's something completely different or not even remotely close to what you were envisioning, then you have essentially wasted your time, you've unresolved nothing, and it can lead to more hostility. So you need to jointly select a mediator by interviewing a child custody mediator, a family law mediator, that's a neutral party. You don't need any other person besides you and the other person. You don't need an attorney with you to mediate it. Talk to your attorney beforehand if you have one. If you don't have one, do some of your own research online as to what you think may or may not be reasonable. I mean, hopefully these 10 steps, if that's not enough and you need a resolution, then we need to sit down with a experienced mediator. And when I'm going through this mediation process, I want it to be binding, because I'm putting my trust and faith and effort into this mediator, given their experience. And nobody has experience with the quarantine thing. But if I know what your concerns are, and I know what the other parents' concerns are, and this is what you guys have been practicing prior to the custody arrangement, and this is what you guys have been doing now, and it's not really working, despite all of these other professionals that could potentially assist you guys, and this is your last stop, I want that to be binding. I really would. Even if it doesn't come out in my favor, this is a neutral third party that is assisting me and the other parent to do what's in the best interest of our children. Now, if you both don't like the recommendation of the mediator, then that's an agreement between the two of you, and maybe talking and sitting down with a child custody and visitation mediator or family law mediator. You're like picking and choosing of things that you both think would be in the best interest of the children. And from that, you're creating something that you both can come to an agreement with. So that is definitely something I would highly suggest for those who cannot get past these 10 tips and they were not effective. And so I just need to sit down with a professional. And when I say sit down, it's going to be a virtual mediation between you and the other parent and the mediator, and you jointly select mediator. I mean, there are hundreds of mediators out there, and you can sit there and figure out what's really in the best interest of the children. So I could even mediate it for you if you wanted. So please make sure that you share this 10-step guide with our bonus tip, and you will be in much better hands than you were prior to reading this. If you have additional tips, please share them with me. I mean, like, what is it that other parents are doing outside of the 10 or 11 tips that I've given laid out for you? Education is key. Empowering people to make the best decisions for their family is very important. And we definitely do not want to read any cases in San Diego where the other parent takes child custody and visitation rights because they're working at the hospital, for example, or working someplace in the healthcare system. We don't want to see that. We want parents to try and come to a common ground. And that's very difficult. I get it. It is very difficult. But if you put the past behind you, because you're both dealing with a time that nobody in this world has dealt with, and you don't want to become another statistic, communicate, talk to professionals. Take a co-parenting class together. There's solutions. You just need to be able to be open about those solutions and approach this with a new set of eyes that will help the family and really help the children during this time. All right? Don't be scared to give yourself a break from some parenting and let the other parent do the work as well. I mean, usually I hear from parents saying that, well, even if they do have them, they don't actually do anything with the kids. They're just letting them play on the TV or watch TV the whole entire time. It's their parenting time. Let them do it. Just worry about you getting that mental health break, and it's not detrimental to the kids, especially if they're being nutritious, they're eating nutritious food, they're completing their homework, they're doing educational enrichment activities, and they're spending an additional hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, watching TV or having an additional snack here and there. These are little trivial things that we don't really want to get into during the COVID-19. We just don't. So just take it as a mental health break. I mean, that's how I see it. This is a mental health break. I do not want my kids to be with me 24/7 without help. If I don't have help and I'm working, I got to make sure that they're fed, they're clean, they're washing their hands every 10 seconds, and they have to make sure that their homework is done, and then I have to make sure that my work is done. And then, I need to go out and do some grocery shopping, but I don't want them to go out because I don't want to expose them to COVID-19, or they're not exactly the best listeners because they're little children running around. But I don't have the help, like all of these different factors. I mean, it's really all on you. Let's lift a little bit of these responsibilities that you have and let the other parent have a little bit more time with them, if that's really what's in the best interest. Now, if this is an abusive situation, you definitely need to make sure that you have that restraining order filed to prevent continuous contact with the children. And so don't use that as a means to not allow the other parent to have contact with them by making up stuff. That's not okay. And so we don't want to prevent these visitations from occurring because of the coronavirus. But we're a huge proponent of less contact between the parents. We're a huge proponent of less contact to the outside world, outside of the home order, the stay-at-home order. And we're a huge proponent in communication with the other parent and doing what's in the best interest of the children at all times. Remember, it's not about you. It's about the kids. Let go of that negative thoughts that you have about the other parent, and let's just keep moving in the right direction so that me and the other parent that you might absolutely hate, absolutely do not get along with, can do what's in the best interest of our kids. We hope that you found this helpful. If you can, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let us know if there's anything that you'd like for us to do a video on, a blog on. You want to be a person that comes on our video and talks about your point of view about something. I mean, that would be very awesome as well. So just let me know. I mean, I'm open to various ideas, and this is an area that I am very passionate about, is making sure that, parents are actually co-parenting within the concept of the best interest of the children. And if they have court orders, to follow those court orders, because you don't want to be in front of the judge months from now after this pandemic is over and the stay-at-home order is lifted, and the other parent is complaining about how you have repeatedly violated child custody and visitation orders. Because if you thought that the children were actually in danger, you would have filed a restraining order. And if you didn't file a restraining order, you didn't call 911, you didn't go to the doctor based off of what the other parent is doing, if you did not call child welfare services based off of what the other parent is doing to your children, then the court is not going to be happy with you. Remember, judge is who's hearing the child custody and visitation issues at some point in time, and your actions during this time, if it's not centered on your children, the court's not going to be happy with you. If you have a court order and you or the other parent are not following it without an agreement to not follow it, then the court is not going to be happy with you. Court is entrusting that each parent is doing what is in the best interest of their kids during their parenting time. They gave them that court order for a reason, and sometimes we don't agree with the court order, but you're gonna have to just accept it. And this is when a mental health professional comes in. This is when a educator comes in, like your children's teacher, or also the children's therapist can also come in. Taking a co-parenting class can come in. So there's all these different things that you and the other parent can be doing to allow you both to accept the court orders that you may or may not be in agreement with. Please share this video with parents that you believe might benefit from this 10-step guide. It is very important for parents to understand that this is not about them. When it comes to custody and visitation issues, it's not about them. It's not about how the other parent treats you. It's about how the other parent treats your child and the relationship between the child. Thank you, warriors, and we hope that you continuously stay safe during the COVID-19 stay-at-home order. Thank you.